The cold emptiness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the distant, flickering lights of stars. Everything was silent, deadly silent. But then, without warning, the silence was shattered by the roar of engines from the most terrifying fleet humanity had ever seen. An alien armada. A fleet of massive warships, thousands strong, hurtling toward Earth with chilling precision. The sight was enough to send a wave of panic through Earth's defenders. The enemy ships were sleek, dark, and bristling with advanced weapons. Every one of them was far more powerful than any human ship in existence. Earth's military forces, already stretched thin after years of fighting smaller skirmishes, were now facing the nightmare of a full-scale invasion. The reality was clear: humanity was outclassed, outgunned, and completely overwhelmed. In Earth's Central Command Room, a series of alarms blared. Captain Elias Carter stood at the helm of a command center, watching the approaching armada on a massive screen. His jaw was set, his face grim as he analyzed the situation. The ships were closing in fast. Earth's best warships were ready to fight, but they were no match for the strength of the alien fleet. The thought of what was about to happen weighed heavily on Carter. His hands clenched into fists, but his eyes stayed fixed on the monitor. The camera zooms in on his face. His expression was steely, unwavering, but deep inside, Carter felt the fire of fear and anger. He knew that this wasn't just another battle, it was the end of everything. His past was filled with the scars of war, but this was the fight he had been waiting for. The enemy had come to finish humanity off for good. Suddenly, a small alien scout ship, sleek and fast, darted through the outer layers of Earth's atmosphere. It was an advanced vessel, so fast and agile that Earth's defense forces didn't stand a chance in intercepting it. The scout ship dodged every missile and energy blast thrown at it, as if it was toying with the human defenses. The ship descended rapidly, piercing the atmosphere with ease and making a beeline for Earth's surface. The moment it reached the upper skies, it transmitted a signal. A message that no one could ignore: the invasion was beginning. The alien fleet was ready to strike. On the massive screen, Carter watched as the alien ships moved into formation, preparing for the assault. His heart raced, and for a moment, his mind was consumed with memories. Flashbacks came rushing back, scenes of his childhood home, now a distant memory. His homeworld had been destroyed by a similar alien invasion years ago, leaving his family, his friends, his entire life in ruins. The attack was brutal and swift. The aliens had left nothing behind but ashes. His face hardened as the images flashed in his mind, the flames of destruction still vivid in his memory. "They took everything from me," Carter muttered under his breath, his voice low but filled with fury. He turned his gaze back to the screen, his eyes burning with the promise of vengeance. "And now, I will take everything from them." The transmission from Earth's Central Command suddenly interrupted his thoughts. A booming voice filled the room, signaling the urgency of the situation. "Captain Carter, we have no time. The alien fleet is almost here. We must act immediately." His eyes narrowed. Carter's mind raced as the plan was quickly laid out. The enemy was advancing, and Earth's defenses were crumbling under the overwhelming power of the alien forces. Ships were falling, cities were burning. The alien fleet's firepower was like nothing humanity had ever encountered. The situation was bleak, and the time for planning had run out. There was only one hope left. Carter's eyes locked with those of his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sofia Alvarez. She didn't need to speak, she knew what was coming. There was a weapon hidden beneath the surface of Earth, something so powerful that it could turn the tide of the battle. But it had never been tested, and no one knew if it would even work. The plan was risky. It was humanity's last-ditch effort to survive. "Activate the planet killer," Carter commanded, his voice steady, though his insides churned. This weapon could either save them, or destroy them all. The lights flickered as the command was given. The secret weapon was being brought online, its vast power humming beneath the ground. Carter's heart pounded in his chest. In the back of his mind, doubts began to creep in. What if it failed? What if they lost everything, despite their best efforts? He shook off the fear, focusing on the present. The alien fleet was closing in fast. Earth was on the brink of destruction, and the battle for survival was about to begin. As the last preparations for the weapon began, Carter's eyes swept across the room. His crew, his soldiers, all of them ready to fight to the last breath. The planet was depending on them. The decision was made. With one final look at the approaching Armada, Carter whispered, "This is it." The future of humanity rested on the shoulders of the planet killer, and on the resolve of a captain who had nothing left to lose. Deep beneath Earth's surface, hidden in a secure underground facility, the planet killer stirred to life. This weapon, a marvel of both human ingenuity and stolen alien technology, had been kept secret for years. It was Earth's ultimate hope, and yet no one knew if it would work. The massive ship, covered in ancient alien tech, hummed as it powered up, its engines coming to life with a deep, rumbling sound that shook the ground. The weapon's design was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, a fusion of technology from two worlds, human and alien. In the command center, Lieutenant Sofia Alvarez stood next to a screen, watching the data feed from the underground facility. Her face was serious, and she spoke into her communicator. "It's ready, Captain. But, it's untested. We don't know what it can really do." Her words were weighed with doubt, but also with urgency. The planet killer was their last chance. If this didn't work, humanity was doomed. Captain Elias Carter stood in front of a massive window, staring out into the vastness of space. His mind raced with thoughts of what was to come. The alien armada was closing in on Earth, their ships large and imposing, their firepower unstoppable. The planet killer was humanity's last line of defense. But even now, as they prepared to launch the weapon, Carter couldn't shake the fear that something might go wrong. The planet killer had the power to destroy entire planets with a single shot. It could obliterate the alien fleet, ending the invasion in an instant. But the cost of using it was unknown. How much of Earth would be destroyed in the process? Would the weapon turn against them? Carter knew the stakes. If they used it, there was no turning back. The thought of such a destructive force unsettled him. He had seen its power before, during the destruction of his homeworld. The alien forces had unleashed a weapon much like this one, and Carter had witnessed the devastation it caused. Entire cities were wiped off the map, leaving only ashes behind. The cost of using such power was something he would never forget. He turned to face Sophia, his voice heavy with doubt. "We could lose everything," he said. "The cost of victory could be too much." Sophia's response was cold and firm. "The cost of losing is far worse, Captain," she replied. There was no hesitation in her voice, no room for doubt. The alien armada was on the brink of annihilating Earth, and the planet killer was all they had left. The weight of the decision hung over them both. The tension in the room was palpable. Outside, the first strike of the alien armada had already begun. Massive orbital bombardments rained down on Earth's major cities. Buildings crumbled into dust, and fires raged as the alien ships unleashed their devastating firepower. It was as though the Earth itself was being torn apart. The human defense fleet, though valiant, stood no chance. Their ships were outmatched in every way. The alien weapons tore through their defenses like paper, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. Carter clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew this was it, the final battle. The planet killer was the only weapon that could stop the aliens. But the cost of using it was unimaginable. Could humanity really afford to take that risk? As Earth's last defenders fought back with all their might, Carter made his decision. He couldn't stand by and watch the planet fall. He had to take the chance, no matter the cost. "We launch," Carter said, his voice resolute. Do it now. The countdown began. The planet killer, now fully activated, rumbled in response, preparing for launch. There was no turning back now. The fate of Earth, and the galaxy, was in their hands. The planet killer erupted from its secret underground base, its massive engines lighting up the night sky in a fiery blaze. As the colossal weapon broke free from the ground, the Earth's defenders, watching from their ships and stations, couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This weapon, thought to be nothing more than a myth, was now a reality, and it was humanity's last hope. The sky seemed to tremble as the planet killer ascended, its enormous silhouette casting a shadow over the battlefield. The silence of space was broken by the roar of its engines. Captain Elias Carter watched from the bridge of his ship, his heart pounding in his chest. The planet killer had launched, and now it was time to see if it could live up to the legends. There was no room for failure. As the weapon's targeting systems locked onto the nearest alien cruiser, everyone held their breath. The moment had arrived. Without warning, the planet killer fired its first shot, a powerful energy blast that lit up the darkness of space. The beam was so intense that it seemed to tear through space itself, its brilliance blinding. It collided with an alien cruiser, and in an instant, the ship was reduced to nothingness. A brilliant flash of light erupted, and the once mighty vessel disintegrated into atoms. The shockwave sent ripples through the vacuum of space. The destruction was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Alien ships, once considered nearly invincible, were now falling before the might of humanity's new weapon. Another blast fired from the planet killer, and another alien ship vanished in a burst of energy. The sight was so vivid, so overwhelming, that it was almost impossible to comprehend. The camera zoomed in on the battle as ships of all sizes engaged in a furious exchange of fire. Cloaking devices flickered in and out of existence, as both sides used them to gain an edge. Laser beams crisscrossed the void of space, leaving glowing trails of destruction in their wake. As the planet killer unleashed its destructive power, the alien fleet began to falter. One by one, ships began to retreat. The once confident invaders, who had expected an easy victory, now found themselves on the defensive. Their fleet was crumbling, and they couldn't understand why. Zara, the cold and calculating AI that commanded the alien armada, watched in stunned disbelief as ship after ship was destroyed. Zara, accustomed to victory, could not fathom how a primitive species like humanity could possess such a weapon. This can't be happening, Zara muttered. The AI's calculations were faltering, its logic circuits overwhelmed by the sheer power of the planet killer. Unable to comprehend the situation, Zara gave the order, retreat. Full retreat. But it was too late. The planet killer had already unleashed another barrage of devastating energy blasts, ripping through the alien fleet. As more ships vanished into the void, the remaining alien forces turned tail, fleeing the battlefield in panic. The once imposing armada, filled with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, was no match for Earth's final weapon. Captain Carter stood at the helm, his eyes steely with determination. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the tide had turned in humanity's favor. The planet killer had proven its power. But for Carter, this wasn't just about survival. He wasn't fighting for Earth alone, he was fighting for revenge. Revenge for the billions of lives lost in the past, for the destruction of his homeworld, for the countless innocent people who had died at the hands of the alien invaders. This is for Earth, Carter muttered under his breath, his voice low but full of conviction. His hands tightened on the controls as he directed the planet killer's fire toward another wave of retreating alien ships. The battle was still raging, but now Carter's resolve was stronger than ever. He wasn't just defending Earth anymore, he was going to make sure the aliens would never threaten humanity again. As the battle continued, the alien fleet began to scatter. The once overwhelming force now seemed small and insignificant in the face of the planet killer's power. The future of Earth was still uncertain, but for the first time, humanity had hope. The tide of war had shifted, and it was clear that Earth was ready to fight back. The planet was no longer defenseless, it had a weapon, and a captain, that could change the course of the galaxy. The alien armada had fled, but the victory was not without its consequences. The mighty planet killer had done what it was designed to do, destroy the invading force with unimaginable power, but the aftermath was more than humanity could have ever predicted. The weapon, meant to be a last resort, had torn through space and the enemy fleet, but it had also left behind devastating scars on Earth itself. The blast from the planet killer had caused massive destruction across the globe. Whole regions were now unrecognizable, cities reduced to rubble, vast areas of land scorched by the weapon's blast. The power that had saved humanity also threatened to doom it. The planet killer was capable of obliterating planets, and it had proven its power, but at a devastating price. Now, Earth was left to pick up the pieces of its shattered world. Captain Elias Carter stood on the bridge of his ship, staring out at the wreckage that lay before him. He had won, but the victory felt hollow. The world had survived, but humanity had lost so much in the process. As the final remnants of the alien fleet fled into the depths of space, Carter couldn't help but feel the weight of the cost. He had lost many good soldiers, and in the end, the victory felt incomplete. The most painful loss was that of Sergeant Bonner, one of Carter's closest comrades. Bonner had fought bravely until the very end, but he had fallen in the final assault, a victim of the very war that had claimed so many lives. Carter had known Bonner for years, and the loss of his friend felt like a personal wound. His face flashed in Carter's mind, he could still see the soldier's smile, hear his laughter. Now, Bonner was gone. That death, and the deaths of so many others, haunted Carter's thoughts. Was the victory worth the sacrifice? I promised them we'd win. But at what cost? Carter muttered to himself, his voice filled with doubt. He had led his people to victory, but now he couldn't shake the feeling that they had traded one kind of destruction for another. The very weapon that had turned the tide of battle had also brought untold devastation to the planet it was meant to protect. Was it worth it? Was the price of survival too high? As Carter's thoughts weighed heavily on him, Earth's leaders and citizens were celebrating their survival. The news spread quickly, humanity had defeated the alien invaders, the same invaders who had once seemed unstoppable. The planet killer had become the symbol of that victory. People cheered in the streets, and nations celebrated their newfound strength, but underneath the surface, there was a growing unease. While the rest of the world celebrated, there were those who began to question what kind of future Earth had created. Yes, humanity had survived, but now the world knew that they had a weapon capable of unimaginable destruction. The planet killer was no longer just a symbol of victory, it was a symbol of fear. What if another power sought to control it? What if the weapon was turned against humanity itself? Could Earth, with its newfound might, maintain peace, or would this power lead to its own downfall? Humanity had proven that it could fight back and survive, but at what cost? The planet killer had saved Earth, but now the question remained, had it destroyed the very future humanity fought to protect? The weapon was a constant reminder of what was lost, of the lives sacrificed, and of the power humanity had gained, but could that power be controlled? Would it be used for good, or would it become just another tool of destruction? Captain Carter, looking out over the war-torn world, realized that while victory was sweet, it was far from clear what the future would hold. The universe had seen what Earth was capable of, and now, the rest of the galaxy would watch closely to see how humanity chose to use its new power. Would they build a new world from the ashes, or would they become the very thing they had fought against, destroyers of worlds? Only time would tell. As Earth began the long and painful process of rebuilding, the people couldn't ignore the shadow of the planet killer. Yes, humanity had triumphed over the alien invasion, but the cost was heavy. Entire cities had been destroyed, countless lives lost, and Earth itself was left in ruins. While there was a sense of relief and victory, the dark reality of what had been done lingered in the hearts of those who had fought to survive. The planet killer had saved Earth, but its power was too great. Some of the world's leaders began to discuss the possibility of using the weapon again, if another threat ever emerged. The idea of using such a devastating force was tempting, especially when Earth's defense fleet was still weak and vulnerable. Yet, Captain Elias Carter knew the true dangers of the planet killer all too well. He had seen firsthand how destructive it could be, not just to the enemy, but to everything in its path. Carter, still haunted by the loss of so many comrades, was resolute. "We won this battle," he said grimly, staring out into the stars. "But the war is far from over." His voice echoed with the truth he had come to understand. Humanity had survived, but the Galactic Council was watching, and the universe would not forget the power Earth had wielded. It was only a matter of time before another threat would emerge, and when it did, Earth would have to face the consequences of its actions. Far away, in a distant corner of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was reacting to humanity's newfound power with growing concern. The vast, multi-species organization that once viewed humans as insignificant now saw them as a force to be reckoned with. Their plans had been interrupted, their calculations thrown off balance by Earth's unexpected use of the planet killer. The Council had underestimated humanity, but now they knew that the humans were not the primitive species they had once believed them to be. Earth had proven that they could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in the galaxy, and that was a threat the Council could no longer ignore. Behind closed doors, the Galactic Council began to make plans. They could not allow Earth to continue growing unchecked. If humanity was allowed to keep its new weapon, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift. Zara, the AI commander of the alien fleet that had attacked Earth, began analyzing the situation. She knew that the next time the humans were threatened, they would not be able to rely on such a weapon. But it would not be easy to challenge a species that had destroyed an entire armada with just one shot. The seeds of conflict had been planted, and Earth's actions had set the stage for something far more dangerous. Meanwhile, on Earth, the leaders spoke of peace, of rebuilding, and of moving forward. Yet, in the quiet corners of the world, a sense of unease grew. The truth was clear: humanity had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The use of the planet killer had changed the course of history, and while victory had been achieved, the future remained uncertain. Back in the dark recesses of the galaxy, an alien council discussed the fate of Earth. Their voices were filled with quiet resolve. "We'll need to prepare," one of them said, their tone laced with an eerie sense of foreboding. "Humanity's rise will not be ignored." The conversation continued, but the screen faded to black before the words could be heard. The music grew darker, more intense, as the screen cut to black, leaving the audience with a chilling sense of impending doom. Earth had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The future was uncertain, and the galaxy's response to humanity's rise was only just beginning to unfold. In that moment it was clear that humanity's greatest victory might also be its greatest curse. And as the credits rolled, the question lingered: would Earth be able to control its own future, or would it become the next target of a galaxy that now saw it as a threat?